like backup coffee. I was like, ooh.
Well, I mean, if you have a coffee, it's always important to have a backup coffee,
Right.
especially at this point of the day.
At 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever gets going, whatever gets you going.
Right. Right.
Uh, Kyra, hello. It is so wonderful to
Hi.
speak with you.
Hi. Thank you for interviewing.
Oh no, thank you for the time. I hope you got your backup coffee ready. Because I'm excited about talking about living with Chucky. The film is so much fun. It is so much fun. The franchise is fun. Kira, sorry. Uh,
Oh,
but the film is fun. The franchise is fun. But your voice in the film is so unique compared to anybody else who could have made told this story as well, with your perspective. So I'd love to know from you, what was it like living with Chucky?
very odd and unusual. Yeah, it's interesting because I I almost feel like because I'm from a small mountain town.
Hmm.
So it's almost like this thing that just became so normal in my life that the community around us was just like, oh yeah, that's the Gardners, that's Kyra, Chucky's at her birthday party all the time, every year type of thing. So when you look back at it, you don't think it's that odd because it's just your baseline for normal. Like
It's fair.
I honestly, it's like normal for me is like when you put Chucky in the car, you gotta buckle him up and you gotta make sure that the seatbelt isn't on his hand because then it'll bend it out a weird way and all of these things that you normally wouldn't think of. So definitely an odd childhood, I would say. But it's been so lovely making this and because I feel somehow, if it wasn't already possible, even closer to my dad and his line of work. And before, the Chucky movies were just something that took my dad away from home. And I didn't resent because I was probably too young to even know what that word meant.
Hmm.
But over time, to be exposed through it whenever they do stuff in LA, they did the Curse of Chucky reshoots in LA. And then there were a few things I helped puppeteer for in high school. And I realized like, wow, this is a whole team, like the gang getting back together again, like a band, but none of the band members are different. Nobody's gone off or nobody's passed away. It's really like the same community. So as I grew up, I was like, wow, this is a really cool and unique thing that just so happens to be integrated into my life because of my dad.
Well, and what you said there is something that's really interesting to me because I didn't grow up. I mean, growing up with the franchise, I didn't realize that it was the same people involved every time. Like, I'm talking about the cast. I'm talking about the puppeteers. I'm talking about the writers, directors. I didn't realize that as well. There's a really unique family that was created, and you talk about that in the film. Um, and I was wondering about that because there's a lot of talk in this film about family, of course, with your relationship to it. But one of the comments that's made is creating art is a bonding experience. And from your experience and from your dad and what you've seen, I was wondering, what is it about it that does that?
Just in my short experience in being a director at this point in stage, there's something very magical about creative problem solving.
Mm.
And you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. We don't know. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. Like, is this shot going to work out? And when you're in the trenches with other creatives and trying to figure this hard thing out, uh, if you can make it work, it's this undescribable, like magical feeling that you've all accomplished something together. And without either one of you, it wouldn't have happened. And that especially goes for something like Chucky, because it is multiple people all having to think like a character that like their movements really have to be fluid because of the way that the Chucky budgets were. It went from animatronics to more rod puppetry, which is even harder because it's not something that it's two people hoping to do this at the same time. and things like that. And there's so much that goes into it. Like my dad even explains in the film, like when you turn your head, you blink naturally as a human being. So you have to think of all these minute things that you have to put into this character, but 7 people have to be one person. And so there's something really special. I felt it myself, actually. I puppeted for reshoots for Chucky season 2 here in LA. And it was this complicated move where Chucky was, well, he was the Belle doll in the series, and then he wipes off this disguise and it's revealed that he's Chucky. And there was only 4 of us puppeteers on that shoot, but you know when you didn't get the take and you're like, darn, let's do that again. But it's this collective feeling you all get when you get it right, and you're like, that was it. And you just like it's like an addiction. And so there's something so pure and magical about that. That's just amazing.
It seems that way. It seems like there's such an incredible affection for this character on and on, behind the screen and on the screen as well. Um, I'd love to know from you why. Like, I think in early on in the film, the comments made, whatever Chucky represents to people is real. I love that comment because, I mean, you could make the argument he's a Muppet gone mad, but but there's something about him
Yeah.
you care about.
Yeah, it's a good line that Fiona has, because he could represent many things depending on how you want to look at it. But Chucky, it's he's like 3 foot tall. I think 3'3" to be exact. I measured one time, and he's the little guy that still ends up on top. And I think a lot of people can see themselves in that, whether they are physically little, are somebody who has a disability, or emotionally somebody who has a mental illness that is very hard, or something like that. He is kind of like a physical representation of somebody who was not given the same cards as somebody else. Obviously, he willingly put himself in a doll, but as far as a character goes, you could see yourselves in somebody like that. And I think after like the first movie, especially going on in Child's Play 3, he's going for the authority figures. He's kind of going for the people we don't really like anyways. The weird, creepy doctor in Cult of Chucky, we wanted him to like bash his face in because he was a perv. So it's kind of like maybe you can get a sense of empowerment. But also, if you look at it in another weird way, he's a supportive dad of an LGBTQ child. And in this totally other spectrum of horror that we don't usually see. Like, I remember the first season of Chucky when it came out, and the line that Chucky has is like, I have a gender fluid kid, and the character Zachary is like, and you're not mad, and he goes, I'm not a monster, Jake. And it's just like, I love that line. So whatever it represents to you is so true. He's a lot of people can find themselves in him.
Well,
Besides murdering people.
yeah, that's not encouraged.
Not encouraged.
Well, and what you said there, again, this speaks. Something else comes out in the film. Do you think that Chucky educates? Like, the word educate is used in association with him, and I thought that is fascinating because you did address there the idea of trans and LGBTQ. It talks about those things. It talks about people with physical disabilities. But I was wondering what that word means to you about Chucky educating.
I think so. I think I think it was premature for its time in 2004 to educate the public on transgender things, but now we're in a world that's more accepting to receive that. So I think it definitely is an educator in terms of is the monster this murderous doll, or the people who aren't accepting of their friends, their family, for who they are inside. I think it's a really great way that Dawn has created this character that can educate in that way that we don't see from any other really horror franchise. And of course now, like, the main character is gay and all those things come into it as well, but when it's affecting the actual horror character, it's so lovely. Gigi is an icon. Love them. The doll is so cute. Lachlan's freaking amazing. And it's like, I mean, horror movies have for the dawn of time talked about LGBTQ or, you know, whatever politics or history that was happening at the time. And so it's just emphasizing that still.
Well, and the film talks about horror being its own countercultural subculture, the place
Yeah.
where everybody's welcome, which I find is a fascinating idea, especially because it's horror. Like,
Yeah.
so okay, here's the question: Is Chucky a hero?
No.
That
No.
was easy
Yeah.
and done. Okay.
Some people, yes. And to others, their worst nightmare, because he murdered a kid in the first season. That's so messed up. But yeah, so I wouldn't call him a hero, but I don't know what you would call that. A helping hand to others and a nightmare to others.
That's interesting. He's two-handed. There you go. He's
He's
one-handed.
ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you too. I'm not sure. I admit I'm not sure whether you can answer this or not. So forgive me.
Okay.
I was curious because I mean the film covers the whole gambit from the beginning to where we are now with the series, but it doesn't address the reboot. And I know that there were new voices and new faces. I was just wondering, because of this family atmosphere that was built, were there any? Do you have any idea of what the feelings were of those involved with the reboot, with somewhat of a new cast and new story?
Yes, I do. Everybody who is involved in the original franchise was not on board for the reboot, did not want it to happen, do not pass go, do not collect $200. I remember at the time, because it was 2019 that it came out. So I was in college. I think I had already done the short documentary version of this. So I was a bit more involved in the Chucky family at that point. And everybody said no. You know, Brad Dourif declined. My dad declined to do the doll. Dawn didn't want to do it. And it was a thing where MGM has the rights to the first Child's Play. Universal owns 2 through 7. So technically they still could do it. They just have to, you notice that the doll looks a bit different, and that's from copyright issues. And it felt disappointing, I feel, was the and not accurate of where the franchise was at, because the 7th movie had just come out and nothing needed rebooting. Although it went direct to video, it was still very much a live franchise. And at that point in time, it was already greenlit for the TV series. They just hadn't, you know, it was the very early stages, but it was still something that was ongoing. So for it to be rebooted with people, an entirely new cast and crew, it just was sad. And that's definitely why I didn't address it in the documentary as well, because it would seem like such a side tangent, which it kind of is. No offense to any of the actors. I love Aubrey Plaza. Mark Hamill is great, but it's just such a side tangent because it has nothing to do with the actual storyline of Chucky at all. It's an AI doll, and there's no voodoo elements or anything like that that made Chucky special in the 80s. And now, so if I were to have interviewed Mark Hamill or Audrey Plaza for that thing, it would have just been like a 10-15 minute divergent from the family, which was the whole focus of this. So that's why I didn't include it, because I knew it would just feel weird. And I feel like it would be kind of disrespectful to Dawn in a way.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I appreciate that. Thank you for your time. Honestly, Kyra, we're running out of time. But thank you so much. And the film is, I'll say it, the film is killer. And,
awesome.
And I hope you have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the interview.
Anytime. Thanks so much. We'll have a great day.
You too.